500 years now. Nominalism is a philosophical train of thought that says there is no such thing as abstract thought whatsoever. In other words, if you can't see it, feel it, see it, touch it, and experience it in the respect of with your senses, it doesn't exist, basically. How do you see that played out today in the church? Let's just draw this home.
It's something having to do with health, wealth, and prosperity gospel of.
No. Take it, buddy, to the realm of where. Okay, if there is no such thing as an abstraction, if there is nothing beyond what I can see and feel and know by my own senses, where does that place God in respect of my priorities? He's basically just some pie in the sky, notion out there.
You're being your own God, is that?
Well, no, not even that. This affects the church. The church, nobody in the church would say, I'm my own God.
In the church. In the church. Okay.
Okay. But it does have its manifestations in the God relationship, doesn't it? If God is a notion of something that I can't know, if he is a notion of something that's basically powerless in my life, if he's a notion of this being that's okay when you need him and non-existent when you don't, doesn't that describe probably most of Christendom today? He's cool whenever I'm in the hospital. He's all right whenever my son has a wreck. He's quite okay whenever my heart is breaking because my wife died. But, it's Friday night and the guys at the office are going out. And I know I'm married, but they like to go out and drink. And what do I care if he sees? That's kind of the mentality of most of Christendom today. If I'd rather spend the day at the racetrack, what's that to you? I know that, we have this institution called church, and I know they do this thing called worship, and if I make it once a month, I'm all right. That's okay. Who cares? It has definitely impacted the line of thinking of our day. This philosophy of nominalism has, and Calvin saw the futility of it. Thankfully, he stayed at that university until I believe he was about 19, and his father had a falling out with the Roman Church. They had some disagreements over some things, and the church was paying for part of his education. So guess what happened to old John whenever his daddy in the Roman church kind of got at odds? John had to find somewhere else to go to school. And his father, furthermore, decided, you know what, you meant for better things than being a monk, thankfully. And he said, I'm going to make an attorney out of you. And so he pulled him out of that school at Paris, and he put him in law school. At both of these schools, at the school in Paris, he became fluent in Latin. His institutes of the Christian religion, Latin was not his native tongue, but the institution of the Christian religion were written in Latin. Interestingly enough, by the time he was 25. The first edition, they were revised many, many times, about 6 or 7 times, before they are the work that we know today. But whenever he was pulled out of the one school and then put in the college to become an attorney, there he became quite proficient. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
In Greek, particularly New Testament Greek. Somebody tell me why that's important.
Because the New Testament was written in Greek.
The New Testament was written in Greek, but why take it a step further? Why is it important to that we have scholars. I'll never be one of them. I know some of
Greek was the ancient. It was pre-Roman. Pre-Roman and
What's that got to do, though, with the writing of the New Testament and the manuscripts? We don't have any of the originals, none of them.
No.
We have not one. But we have autographs from the 2nd century. Fragments, at least. What is the significance of that to us today with this book? Is New Testament Greek, Koine Greek, K-O-I-N-E, is it still used, spoken in any
You're talking about period Greek?
Koine Greek, which is the Greek they spoke and used in the time of Christ.
Oh, I think that would be a dead language.
It's a dead language. What is the importance of that fact?
The importance of the fact of Koine language.
What does that mean? What is a dead language? Latin is a dead language.
That's right.
That's pretty well what it capsulizes. It is no longer used. And it therefore no longer what? It no longer changes. What was written in Matthew 16 then is still the same thing now. And that's very important. And I'll tell you why.
Period Greek.
My grandfather has been dead for 23 years. The only grandfather I knew. My other one was killed in World War II. If my grandfather could come back today, and I wouldn't wish this, please don't misunderstand me. If he could come back today and stand here beside me, and I could get Miss Ann's 2 grandchildren to come here and stand on this side of me, and they tried to talk to my granddaddy, he wouldn't understand a word they said, hardly a word they said. Because they'd use words like radical, what's some of the other catchphrases of the day? I don't know. And I've got a kid that I'm trying to raise. The point is, the English language is still in use, and it changes, it evolves.
Linguistic evolution.
My grandfather, in his youth, would not have thought twice about writing this sentence. It is a glorious day, I feel so gay. He wouldn't have thought twice about that. You couldn't pay.
I got you now.
One of you in this room to write that sentence on paper.
No.
Because once it's written, it's there. And nobody wants that said of them today, do they?
No, that day means something Fred
My
Sanford.
grandfather would have meant I'm happy.
Yeah.
I am glad to be alive. It's a beautiful day. The English language is not a dead language. But brothers and sisters, with the Koine Greek, we don't have to wonder, now what in the world was he trying to say here? It means the same thing today that it meant then. That's nothing short of God's glorious providence, brothers and sisters. The translations change, indeed, they do. Sir? What, Brother Joe?
Every year.
Sister Francis, every year.
Every day.
There are new translations, and there are ways in which, not one of them, let me tell you this, not one of them is infallible. God's Word in its original is infallible. The King James Bible is not infallible. It is translated by very fallible men. And so, there have been editions of the King James Bible they had to take off the shelf because they got words wrong. If you study the history of the Scriptures and how it all came to be.
What was the prerequisite of the Geneva Bible? I know the Geneva was prerequisite of King James.
Buddy, I'd have to go back and look. I can't off the top of my head remember.
That's fine.
Well, really, prior to that, it would have been probably Jerome's Latin Vulgate, as far as
Latin, wouldn't there have been a Greek and a Hebrew Vulgate for others? After that movie, The Passion of the Christ came out, Mel Gibson's old stuff, which was a good movie. What we were talking about, there was a Latin, Greek, and Hebrew Vulgates that Mel Gibson may have been tampering around with to make that movie. 3 Vulgates, the Tri-Vulgate, the entire Bible was written in Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. We was talking about the three Vulgate common languages, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin, that the entire Bible was written in. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Answer, that's right.
Now,
Okay.
when Calvin came on to the scene in his late teens, early adulthood, he came into a time where thought, particularly thoughts along things of the scriptures, was not something that the common man was encouraged to do. Where were you supposed to get your scriptural thought?
From the priest at
From the priest.
the Latin,
The
Latin
church
speaking.
told you how to think about the Bible, and you didn't read it, you didn't think about it, you didn't. You trusted that the priest was giving you the right stuff, and
You weren't supposed to think on your own.
no, you weren't supposed to study it on your own. That was a no-no.
That's one of Calvin's complaints.
Exactly. Well, when he came on to the scene, theological thought processes were next to nothing. It was a dark time. By the time he was 25 years old, he had finished the first edition of the Institutes of the Christian Religion. It was 6 chapters. By the time he died at the age of 50, whatever, I forget, that 6-chapter book was 4 volumes of 20 some odd chapters each. He would revise it, and it wouldn't be like he wanted it, or it was going through something called growing. Brother Lindy, when you started preaching 50 years ago, was your body of knowledge about the scriptures what it is today? No, of course not. When he first wrote the Institutes of the Christian Religion, he was 25 years old. He was a young man. Now his understanding of things didn't change. It wasn't that he had it wrong. It was that he grew, and his body of knowledge